Good evening. Hare Krishna. Thank you to those who are here coming, and to those who are late, going to be later. I'll say hello already, because I won't be able to do that when I'm singing. Okay, so everybody okay? Everybody happy? Everybody blissful? Yes? Well, you've got a lot of bright, smiling faces, so you all must be doing something right. Despite all the M25 and all the rest of it. No?
Hare Krishna,
One more, all together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Radhe Shyam ki Jai. Right. Thank you very much. That's very nice. Okay. Are you sweating? Oh, this boy. Sweating. Okay, so I'll hand you over to Premaniketan. His Grace, Premaniketan. He's going to enliven and enlighten and inspire us with his talk. So thank you very much, everybody. Hare Krishna.
So 2 weeks ago, we talked about 4 regulative principles. We just touched upon. And I thought today we'll just take one regulative principle and discuss about it and how we can change our lifestyle in order to dovetail that in order to please Krishna. And that's no meat eating. But meat eating is so prevalent. Every food, packaged food, particularly if you buy, unless you really pay attention, those E numbers, a lot of things, They say vegetarian, but we get, a lot of times we kind of get mistaken, isn't it? We buy products and you come home and then you put that number in Google and find out, that wasn't what exactly I was looking for. So to live in this modern era and to survive, it really requires a lot of commitment. But after a certain stage, the life becomes easy because you know what you're supposed to eat. You can only eat what we can offer to Krishna. Life becomes easy, isn't it? Now, regardless, our human body is not designed really to consume meat products. They're not. And there are scientific reasons why. So I thought initially we'll discuss the scientific reasons why our body is not designed to consume meat. Anyone like to say something?
We have a long intestinal tract and carnivores have a short intestinal tract.
Exactly. So carnivores have 4 to 6 times of their height. 4 to 6 times of their height. What about humans? About 10 to 12 times. So any herbivores, their intestine is 10 to 12 times of their height. Because it takes time to process, and there's a lot of churning required, and they contain a lot of fluid to absorb. That's why our large intestine is very long. And designed in such a way because the plant-based diet, it has a lot of nutrients that meat products, because their that is already digested product that has come into the muscles, isn't it? So it doesn't require a lot of processing. Yeah? But plant-based, it requires a lot of processing. And that's the way our body is designed. Yeah? It comes to our jaw, teeth, tongue, and the saliva that we produce in the mouth. That is not acidic, that is alkaline, compared to meat eaters, means carnivores, and their saliva is acidic. Ours is alkaline, because our body requires more alkaline than to acidic, because acidic is really very damaging to our body. Yeah? So our teeth, we do have canine there. Yeah? They're not as big, as sharp compared to carnivores. Theirs is really because they just grab, snatch, and straight away swallow. Yeah? We have very good molars. Molars are the teeth back in the jaw. Yeah? They chew. And how they chew? This is all science. This is not coming from Vedas or something. This is purely science. That's what we have studied in medical school. Yeah? Our jaw moves side to side. Cows, they eat, they sit, and they bring out from their pouch, chew again, and then goes into the stomach. Yeah? So their jaw and our jaw move side to side. You may not realize that we're doing this. Yeah? But that just happens. You just try it. That just happens. That's natural. Because plant-based food, you have to really grind and chew properly. Make it ready for our stomach. We humans have to, so most of herbivores, they have to really eat a few times a day. At least 2 times a day. Carnivores, polar bear, they eat and go to sleep for 6 months, they're gone. Until next season. Lions, they eat once their belly is full, they don't think about where the next meal is going to come. But humans are very different. Humans are very different. Most herbivores, they have to eat a few times a day. Yeah? So that's external. That's external. Most carnivores, they are really dreadful predators. They have no emotions who they kill. Yeah? But our slaughterhouses, they have very closed environment. No one outsiders can go and see how they kill animals. Yeah? Because we have emotions. We are more evolved than them psychologically. We have more compassion if we want to have. So we are more evolved than them psychologically. We have evolved emotions, we can feel others' pain. Animals very rarely do that. There is no behavior. The carnivores, they absolutely have no emotions. They just kill, eat, whatever left over, they just discard and move on. But we humans are very different. And then from a health perspective, we think about it. The most of modern illnesses, they're originating, be it mental, be it physical, they're all coming from because very large proportion of human civilization now consumes meat. There are very handful countries now where large proportions of people are still herbivore. They're not. We're all kind of turning into meat eaters. There's a bit of surge into veganism and the vegetarianism at the moment. But largely what will happen in this age of Kali is that the degradation is inevitable. But with that comes a lot of psychological burden because the mental health is up in rise, massive. Yes? Massive rise. Every single person on the street, in our workplace, they're all suffering from stress and anxiety. Every single. You just hold their hand and sit down, they will start pouring out their heart. But unfortunately, they have no one to talk to because they don't have any confidence who they talk to. If they talk to anyone, that becomes the talk of the town. So there's a fear. I will be judged. And it happens. People judge. A lot of health conditions. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, cancers, largely because of the kind of food we eat. So Krishna in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he talks about the three kinds of food. From 17th chapter, 7 to 10, I think we should read just verses. So I open the Bhagavad Gita, straight away opens the 17th chapter. Krishna, you are magical, aren't you? Yeah. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds. According to the three modes of material nature, the same is true for sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them. Next one is 17:8. Food dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life. So people who smoke, people who are really into eating a lot of meat, all 3 meals contains that. Their life is definitely shortened because we see it all the time. Somehow or other, they die sooner. The duration of life purify one's existence and give strength. So Krishna here is not just talking about physical strength, he's talking about mental strength, emotional strength. Spiritual strength comes from this. Health, happiness, and satisfaction. When we eat Krishna Prasadam, we feel completely satisfied, don't we? Because that's a different level. That's a different level. I'll talk about that next. About it. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. So they just don't provide food, but that nourishes our inner self as well. But we just need to get habitual of doing that and pleasing to the heart. The next one is 17:9. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. So that basically that pumps their cortisol, adrenaline, rushing. They are, the most of food outlets, these days they serve quick food, fast food. Must eat, grab, carry on working. There is no time for sit even for a few seconds to enjoy your meal. There is none. I see in the offices these days, we are working and still, stuffing the food in our mouth. We don't kind of step away from the desk. We just continue eating. That's entirely mode of passion. We're on the drive. And what does mode of passion does? A lot of mental illness. A lot of physical illness comes with that. A lot of stress, anxiety. Adrenaline, what it does? It's a catabolic. It destroys our cells quicker because cell has a duration of life. So mitochondria produces a limited amount of ATPs and ADPs. And what happens in that? That has a limitation. If our food habits, if our thinking process, if we have good habits, our telomere, we call it, genes, yeah, they become larger, longer. But when it's stressed and anxious, that telomere shortens. So is lifespan. Because you get a lot of illnesses because of that. So that's science. Such food causes distress, misery, and disease. It's Krishna talking. Yeah? It's Krishna. He spoke this fact 5,000 years ago. And scientists, or the people who believe in science, I believe in science, it works. It has given a lot of things to humanity. And now we are discovering that how these things causing a lot of issues in our society. And there's a lot of talk about yoga, there's a lot of talk about meditation, Tai Chi, mindfulness, there's a lot of discussions. People have realized just by chewing medicine is not going to solve our problems. Just by watching telly, not going to solve the world's problem. Absolutely not. It will not. Just by gossiping and discussing, yes, we feel that we have done something. But the work done, what's the definition of work? What's the scientific definition of work? Anyone?
There needs to be a displacement.
Displacement and force. There has to be force, there has to be displacement. If our work, if you're applying force and there is no displacement, work done is zero. If there's displacement but applied no force, work done, again zero. So there has to be displacement. And being evolved human beings, we're supposed to have a displacement in our consciousness, positive displacement. So just by saying that I can eat anything, I can drink anything, my health will be fine, my consciousness will be fine, my emotional stability is going to be fine, it's not going to happen. There has to be change, fundamental change has to be there. Physical, also emotional, and spiritual. All three dimensions has to fall in the same axis. Yeah? Anxiety and stress, because our mind is somewhere else, our body is demanding something else. Our emotional stability is completely gone out of the window. And there is no discussion about the fourth axis, that spiritual need of human beings. We completely ignore, we don't even talk about it. That's why there's so much disruption in access. Unless we have proper access in one line, doesn't matter how hard we try. If one of the axes doesn't meet, the catastrophe is definitely going to be there in our lives. Now the third food habit Krishna talks. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. That's the hard one, isn't it? Food prepared 3 hours before being eaten. The fridge is a sign of laziness. Is that true? Yeah? Fridge is a sign of laziness. We should prepare food and just eat it straight away. Srila Prabhupada always ate. Srila Prabhupada, when he was going, means anywhere in the travel, there's a famous picture of Srila Prabhupada with his disciples. I think there was one Mataji was in that picture. Who was that? Remember the name? No. Oh, Yamuna Mataji, yes, yeah, she was in that picture. Going from Kolkata to Mayapur, and Srila Prabhupada's lunchtime was there. And Srila Prabhupada found a pond. He went and had a bit of bath and came back. In that split time, Yamuna Mataji, in the makeshift of kitchen, put some bricks and firewood and everything. She cooked Srila Prabhupada's meal. No wonder Yamuna Mataji was absolute favorite of Srila Prabhupada. Completely devoted, 100%. 100%. You get goosebumps when you hear about her. Food that is tasteless. Once the fruits and veggies they enter our fridges, the taste goes instantly. When I go to India, we have kind of farmland and we pluck tomatoes and aubergine and things. You cook, taste is so different. So different. Decomposed. Most food that we buy from the outlets, they are decomposed. They are heavily decomposed. They put a lot of stuff in it too. The packaged foods, crisp and all of that, they decompose largely. The food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Krishna. It's a very good saying that whatever we eat, we become. When I first came into Krishna consciousness, I used to go and sit. Whatever that Prabhu used to say about Bhagavad Gita, nothing went in my head. The only thing used to make sense is prasad. And that too, prasad that was cooked by that devotee, he was not a good cook, I can say. But because it was offered to Krishna, he would just put black beans and a little bit of salt in it, and that's it. No spices, nothing, and rice. And sometimes half-cooked rice, because he wasn't a good cook. But offered to Krishna, it would somehow or other it would taste so delicious. And for a month, I literally went for that black beans and rice. And sometimes we used to get laddus. And that did magic from inside. I didn't go for Bhagavad Gita class. I didn't understand a word about. But what really made sense to eat prasad. ISKCON bullets. ISKCON bullets. There was one devotee, very early days in 1967 or 68. That devotee was about to leave ISKCON. He had some discussion with Srila Prabhupada, and in the fit of misunderstanding, he was just about to leave. And Srila Prabhupada in those days, so he must have been 73, 74 years old, Srila Prabhupada. He would make gulab jamuns. Have you heard about gulab jamuns? Gulab jamuns? Yeah? They're very delicious. So he used to put in a kind of bucket or something at the door. People coming in and out, popping one. Okay. And that devotee just stood by that bucket. He thought, why don't I have one gulab jamun before I leave? He had one, he had two, he had three. He just couldn't stop himself. And he realized, my goodness, I'm going to miss these gulab jamuns. Might as well just stay in. And he came back. Prasad is very powerful. What's the difference between food, nutrition, and prasad? Prasad is offered to Krishna. It has touched by Krishna. Emotions, devotion. That has limitless potencies. Prasad. Limitless. If we honor, even if you don't know it is prasad, just eat prasad, it will do the magic from within. It is so powerful. Food can be anything. We talk about tamasic food. in mode of passion, ignorance. But prasad is sattvic, in mode of goodness. It just not nourishes our body, but it provides nourishment to our emotions and our spirituality from within. It does magic. So what we have to do, that whatever we eat, whatever, we must offer it to Krishna. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, in what state of consciousness you are. Just make a little effort. In the office, just shut your eyes for 2 seconds. Krishna, please accept it. And you'll see the transformation that happens. Little bit of habit to bring Krishna in our life. We don't have to make a separate arrangements to place Krishna. We just have to include Krishna in every day-to-day life, every minute or any massive things we do in our life. You buy a car, offer it to Krishna. Krishna, it's yours. I'm going to utilize it in your service. Nothing wrong with that. You're going to buy a car anyways. Might as well offer it to Krishna. What's wrong? Krishna will be very, very lucky if Krishna steals our car and runs away with that. Very lucky if he does that. Yeah? Yeah. So that's that. And then Krishna, he goes on to talk about, I think this is 6th chapter, Dhyana Yoga. Let's see, it's 6. There is no possibility of once becoming a yogi. So Krishna, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, he has given some solutions how to engage ourselves in his service. So there is no possibility of once becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much. If one eats too much or eats too little. So Krishna is not saying here that we go to Himalayas and live in caves and become a kind of hardcore yogi, stop eating and just live on some fluid or some air. Yeah? That's not recommending by Krishna. There is no possibility of once becoming a yogi. O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Krishna, too little also can be harmful and too much is definitely harmful. What Srila Prabhupada used to say is 6 hours. 6 hours sleep is kind of generally sufficient. Yes, for some they may kind of need a bit, maybe an hour or so extra, but generally 6 hours, Srila Prabhupada used to say, is sufficient sleep. But some people sleep 10 to 12 hours. I was talking to one of my colleagues, and over the weekend this guy sleeps about 18 hours. I'm like, hello? 18 hours sleep at a stretch. They can just go and wake up next day evening.
Exhausted.
Yeah. But what we don't realize that by doing meditation, by doing yoga, by kind of connecting ourselves, so we become less stressed, less anxious. Our body is less fatigued. Our body is not overworked. Even though you're not working in the office, you're constantly churning, constantly going on, thinking, overthinking about work, about someone said something. Yeah? So those people sometimes they sleep too much or they just don't sleep at all. So insomnia is a major problem. Insomnia is a major problem. Most top leaders, they take medications to help them go to sleep. Most people in old age, they require sleeping tablets to help them get to the sleep. One of the kind of major requests come to me, one of the clinic, is to can you prescribe a tablet to help me sleep? Major problem. But once we become dependent and know that whatever is happening to me today is because of my own karma, no one else to blame, the life becomes so easy, so pacified. It's basically my own doing. No one else has done anything. Nothing is going to happen to us unless it is we have done something about it. So too much eat and too little eating. Both are bad. Now in the next verse, in the verse 16, 6th chapter, Krishna, he gives more solutions. Yukta har viharasya. Yukta chestasya karmasu. So I'll just read the translation. He who is regulated in his habits of eating. So much importance Krishna is giving on this eating habit and sleeping habit and exercise and physical fitness. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So this will help to mitigate a lot of mental problems, a lot of emotional problems and physical problems. Yeah? So we try to bring this in our kind of day-to-day life, will help. Then Krishna, he further in the 3rd chapter, I'll come to the 9th chapter last. In 3rd chapter, 3:13, yes. The devotee of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. All kind of stress, all kind of issues. If you just practice one thing, if one thing from this class you want to take away today is that whatever we eat, whatever we do, must offer it to Krishna. Yeah? The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins, because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment, Krishna is warning here. Verily eat only sin. Unless we change our food habit, the yoga system won't work. Yeah? It is just like doing a lot of activities, fire and everything, and then you pour water in it. If you don't offer the food we're consuming to Krishna and eat it as a prasad. Very important. Very important. And what kind of prasad, what kind of food Krishna likes? That will take us to the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That's 9:26 and 27, if I'm not wrong. Let me see. I've gone to 10th chapter. Yeah. So 26, famous verse. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktayo parnashmi asnami paryanti manaha. If one offers me with love, Krishna is not saying here that gold plate, silver plated and very high class paraphernalia. Krishna is giving a simple solution. Anyone can do that. Doesn't matter in what state we are, where we are, we all can do it. The two ingredients Krishna tells here, with love and devotion. Just two ingredients we need. Or whatever is in the house, put in whatever little plate. If you have special plate for Krishna, don't have special plate for Krishna, in any plate, clean it. Yeah? Krishna, you eat first. You eat first. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. And that's what Krishna will accept. Krishna is not saying that I accept meat. Krishna is not saying that I accept fish or egg. No. Krishna is very explicit here. He's saying what he will accept. He's just making our lives very simple. There is no need of speculation. Yeah? Leaf, flower, fruit, and water. Any kind of thing. And the last shloka for today. Yat karoshi yadasnasi yat juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushma darpana. Whatever we do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Krishna is saying, just add me in your life. I'll do the rest. Yeah? So whatever little or big activity we like, just add Krishna. Whatever activities, whatever we eat, whatever we drink, whatever yoga, whatever imagination, add Krishna in our imagination too. Yeah? One of the, don't remember what that shloka is. Krishna helps. Let me see. 432. What Krishna says in that verse is that don't kind of generate sankalpa, material sankalpa, sense enjoyment. I'm going to do this. Don't have determination to enjoy sense gratification in this world, because that will generate karma, bad karma. Yeah? Karma sankalpa vivarjita. Karma sankalpa varjita, Krishna said. Varjita. Varjita means banned. Should not do it. Be careful what we wish. If you want to wish something, add Krishna. He will just purify. He will do surgeries in the heart and fix it. Yeah, we just have to add Krishna in our life. Any questions? Any comments? Krishna, yes.
This is why we practice Ekadashi, because it's good for our health. Is there any other reason? Is it because we fast and we eat certain foods? That it's good for our health?
That's the health reason, yes, definitely. Because
it's slightly connected with what
yeah, definitely. Intermittent fasting is a very, very good process for health. It works, it helps. And Ekadashi you can take as one of them.
Sure.
Now, the way Srila Prabhupada described Ekadashi is that just reduce your activity. So it provides you more time for you to chant and read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. More association, focus on that. Yeah?
I think it would be nice if we could have a nice talk on that at some point, because I think some people don't. I'm not saying people don't, but some people, I'm including myself here.
Yes. No, it's good to fast on Ekadashi.
I've had a long conversation with Kenneth Priya about that, because at one time I wasn't practicing that, and I told her I wasn't practicing, and I said, you need to tell me about it, and since she's told me about it, it makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
It's something now that I now practice.
Thank you. I think we'll do a class on that how it should be done and process and everything. We'll do a class. Yes, Prabhu, you had a question.
Yeah, it's funny you were saying about we become what we eat, because a nutritionist at work always says that we are what we eat. We are what we eat, and who we are is connected physically, because from the stomach to the brain is the bone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so it
Absolutely.
directly affects our
Absolutely.
But going on from what you were saying, I think it's also about I don't know if it's the mode of intelligence or the mode of knowledge, I'm not sure what that is. But we have the capacity to be vegetarian really. It's a choice.
Absolutely.
And the karma, for me, I feel that anyway, is a very, very positive one, because the opposite of that is buying into a food industry. They don't call it an industry lightly, it is exactly that. And meat is murder. And it's just an awful, awful thing. I think for me it's like one of the worst things ever, really.
That's true.
And so that brings very bad karma to ourselves, but also the world.
Yeah, yeah. That's very true. That's very true. Anyone else wants to comment or?
Yeah, I'll just make one comment. I'm listening at the moment again to the biography again. You mentioned a life of unalloyed devotion. So I would recommend if anybody wants to listen to a good book on Audible or to buy that book.
There's an audible book.
Yeah, I'm listening to the Audible version. I haven't read the book before. It's called A Life of Unalloyed Devotion about Yamuna Devi, and it is very, very inspiring.
Oh, yes.
It's amazing. She was an incredible personality. So if you're interested in food, it's definitely a book worth reading.
Yes. Srila Prabhupada personally taught her and sent away to go and learn certain recipes and all of
It's
that.
very inspiring.
Very inspiring. Yes.
I recommend it.
She's still alive?
No, she's not.
No, she.
But I have eaten her food actually.
Have you?
I have eaten.
Very
I was
fortunate.
invited to the manor once for a special program, and Yamuna was doing the cooking, and I've never tasted anything like it, and never have since. It's incredible, absolutely, really, really good. The bhakti that goes into it just takes it to another totally different level.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yes.
it's well worth it if anybody's interested in that sort of thing. Well worth having a listen to or read.
Yes. Yes. Really. Shall we do Arati? Yeah. Anyone who has any questions or comments to make? Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for coming today. Very nice.
Thank you. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Shri Pura Shri Pura.